Hi everybody, this is Cheryl Richardson and I am here for our weekly Facebook Live, and I'm looking forward to taking your questions and hearing about how you're doing, welcoming you here. Tonight I was sitting down and I was flipping through a galley copy. Galley is the not fake book, I was going to say fake book, but it's a copy of your book that you get when you're a writer, when you're going to publish. The publisher puts together a galley copy of the book, which is an uncorrected proof that goes out to different media sources and things like that. And so as I was getting ready for tonight's call, I opened up to a random page and thought, I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about to start this Facebook Live. And so I opened up to a random page and I opened up to a story about Debbie Ford. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to read that. And the message in that entry based on Debbie, I think, is a really great message for all of us to hear and to think about, to consider. So I'm going to do that in just a second, but let me just say hello to a few people. Hi, Aroha and Marianne near Sadari. Welcome. No, Marianne. Hi, Marianne. Okay, I see. And Andrea and Vivian and Teresa and Sarah, welcome. And Kath from Melbourne, welcome to you. Jessica and Deborah and Therese and Madeline and Nancy and Mindy. Hi, everybody. From Ottawa, Mauro from Ottawa and Donna from San Francisco. And Ari. Hi, welcome. What a great last name, Wisdom. I wonder if that's your real last name. That's awesome. Hey, Bill LaPlante, nice to see you. Thanks for being here. I always think of you so fondly, and I tell the story. Bill is the wonderful young man who helped me to learn about the power of smashing bottles and expressing your anger when you're grieving back probably 30 years ago. And Bill, you don't know it, but I've told that story all over the world about the importance of getting the anger related to grief up and out of the body, and you were so sweet to help me do that. I wonder if you remember that experience when I smashed the light bulbs in the basement of Lucy's house. Do you remember? And Effie, welcome, and Rachel, and Anna, and Karen, welcome to you, and Anne. Yeah, how great. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. Well, hey, Donna, welcome to you. Happy belated birthday, Donna Abate, my sweet Donna. You do, Bill. Oh, that's great. I'm glad you remember. It's a really special, fond memory of mine. Anyway, so I wanted to, I'm going to read a little, Linda, don't worry. I know she's saying because of the heat, the internet service is buffering, but you'll be able to see this again. You can either come here to Facebook or you can go to my YouTube channel, Cheryl Richardson TV, and you can watch the video there. So, and then you can hear me say hello to you, sweetheart. Okay, Sarah, I love you too. And Maureen, I'm absolutely going to keep you in my prayers. I'm going to put you right in the prayer book. Mama Zita, my mother's here. Oh my God. Hi, Mom. How are you? Thank you for being here. My Mama Zita, that's what we call it. It's my mother's, it's my, it's Michael and I's pet name for my mother, Mama Zita. Okay, so let me just put, I think I want to go back and hold on one second, everybody. I want to make sure that we get Maureen into the prayer book, the red prayer book. Maureen from Connecticut, you are in there, my darling. So expect a miracle, that's what I say. Why not, right? So I'm going to read you an excerpt from my next book, which is called Waking Up in Winter. And let me see if I can do this. I'll show you it. Can I show you? Let's see if I can do this. Watch. Oops. Oh, maybe I can't show you it. Oh, yeah, you know why I can't? Because, well, this is what it looks like waking up in winter backwards. Thank you. I can't show you because I've got the phone on a stand and it's blocking the camera. Darn it. It's too bad. Usually it doesn't. Oh, well. I wanted to read an excerpt from the book. As I said when we first began, I opened up the book at random because I wanted to just start this Facebook Live with a topic, and then I'll go ahead and take some of your questions. So I opened up at random, and I opened up to a section, an entry about Debbie Ford, and my first time ever meeting her, and the incredible experience I had being at one of her workshops. And it's really instructive, I think. It's something for all of us to think about in terms of what happened, the kind of work that Debbie used to do and what happened at the workshop. So I'm going to read this part from the book and then ask you to consider a few things, and then I'll take your questions, okay? So as I've said before, Waking Up in Winter is a memoir in journal form. So it's a journal that I kept from September through the following March, right after Debbie died. And I did so because I keep a journal all the time, but I decided to publish this one because it really captured a hero's journey and a pivotal time in my life, one that we all go through whether we're conscious of it or not. So I wanted to just capture that experience. Well, I didn't know I wanted to capture it till after I had done it, and when I went back to read it, I thought, wow, this is a really important time in life. Hi, Robin. Glad you're here. All right. So this entry is an October 4th entry, and it's when I had just started a 2-week speaking tour in Europe. So it starts with, I arrived in London to begin a speaking tour, and it feels good to be unpacked and settled in our hotel room. I'm looking forward to seeing friends, visiting gardens, and the people watching, in spite of having a crazy schedule while here. And it was crazy, let me tell you. In the next 10 days, I'm set to give talks in Hamburg, Salzburg, and London, and I hope the travel angels stay close. Michael is snoring softly in the next room, and for once the familiar sound makes me smile. I've missed having him with me on the road. The rooms in this hotel are small but cozy, and I woke this morning inspired to create a little nest for myself so I could write. I have a cup of hot tea with honey on the coffee table next to me, and I've positioned the love seat to face the largest of the hotel windows that provides a panoramic view of the neighborhood. The late-season flowers spilling over their window boxes, weathered brick chimneys, and even the grinning stone gargoyles are perfect company. I'm relieved to be back in the flow of writing again. This intimacy of journal keeping gives me energy, and I find myself excited to put pen to paper. If my sweet friend Debbie Ford were here, she'd congratulate me for taking a creative risk and following my heart. As I write, I can sense her staunch support from the other side, and I feel her support a lot from the other side. I think that when we're connected to loved ones and we believe in and breathe energy and life into the connection with loved ones on the other side, they actually really can be there for us and they can speak to us. And Debbie does. It has been 8 months since she passed, and rarely a day goes by when I don't feel the blunt ache of loss deep in my chest. It still catches me by surprise when I reach for the phone to call her or look forward to the next time we'll laugh together like schoolgirls in a hotel where we both were scheduled to speak. Grief is like the ocean with its never-ending waves. Mom, listen to this, because I think about this when I think about Dad a lot. I was missing him a lot today. Grief is like the ocean with its never-ending waves. Since Debbie's death, I've been swimming in the pain of this loss, feeling steady 1 minute and unstable the next. As I've surrendered to the heartache, though, and allowed the sadness to flow through me, I've noticed that with each wave, a piece of sorrow gets washed away, leaving behind precious memories of our time together. These days, I'm focusing less on the pain and more on the profound influence this woman had on my life, and she did. Debbie was an extraordinary soul. We met 15 years ago at the Boston Park Plaza Hotel. I was sitting at a round table having breakfast with a group of fellow authors when the event director brought Debbie over and introduced us. I'd heard of Debbie's shadow work based on Jungian psychology, and curious to learn more, I decided to attend her talk. On the morning of Debbie's workshop, I slipped into the back of the room and was instantly captivated. Slim, graceful, and completely at ease on stage, Debbie sauntered back and forth, her dark eyes sparkling, her presence filling the room with an electric energy. She spoke openly and with great compassion about subjects most people shy away from, the pain of childhood trauma and abuse, feelings of envy and jealousy, our human tendency to judge people harshly, especially ourselves, and the corrosive shame that limits our ability to fully express our deepest desires. As I watched Debbie skillfully challenge the audience to own both the good and the bad within themselves, the saint and the sinner, in order to realize their full potential. Embracing the light and the dark is the key to living a rich life, she promised. And when she finished her introductory comments, she asked us to sit back, close our eyes, and prepare to discover a priceless gift. And this was the beginning of this amazing experience I had with her. I thought about sneaking out of the room, something I'd typically do for fear of being vulnerable in public, especially given that I'd be speaking at this conference later in the day myself. But something told me to stay. As I sat quietly in the back of the hall, I closed my eyes and let myself be guided by her soothing voice. I felt like she was speaking directly to me. She asked me to breathe slowly into my heart for several minutes before inviting me to think about someone from my past whose behavior I found hurtful or upsetting. Hold on one second, I want to get comfortable. Here we go. Immediately, a business associate I'd been involved with a few years earlier came to mind, someone I came to dislike for being greedy. Next, Debbie asked us to explore our experience of this person in detail. What exactly did he or she say? How did he or she behave? What did this person do that made him or her so unlikable? I didn't have to look far for the answer. This man had taken up too much space in our conversations. He'd made his needs a priority in every meeting, and he'd expected people around him to meet those needs without any resistance. Debbie then invited me to find this person inside myself. I flashed back to a little girl grabbing an extra dinner roll from the dining room table and hiding it under her napkin. A wave of shame washed over me, and this memory led to another. I'd taken a blouse from my mother's closet and hidden it in my bedroom. Sorry, Mom. And I remember the blouse. Just touching the blouse made me feel special, like a grown-up, and I wanted more of that feeling. Lastly, Debbie encouraged us to consider how this seemingly unforgivable part of ourselves might actually be a gift in disguise, a quality that, when embraced, might serve us somehow in the present. That's when the force of her work hit, and I started to cry. Until that point, my professional career had been centered on self-care strategies, the art of making one's needs and desires a top priority. My book and workshops were based on these topics, and I was starting to feel like a hypocrite. A busy travel schedule and regular appearances on television were pushing the limits of my own ability to set boundaries, and I was feeling chronically exhausted and overwhelmed. As I explored my emotional reaction to my greedy colleague, I suddenly understood, in a way that transcends knowing, that he did in fact have something profound to teach me. I needed to embrace my own greediness if I wanted to regain some balance and peace in my life. I had to stop denying the existence of that greedy girl and welcome her instead. I needed her to step in and teach my adult woman a thing or two about speaking up, asking for what she wanted, and getting her needs met. Those 20 minutes changed my life. Not only did I walk out of the room with the courage and confidence to set limits on my time and energy, I left knowing that I'd found a soul sister. Debbie and I shared lunch that afternoon, and sure enough, it launched a friendship that flourished over the next decade and a half. No wonder Debbie has been on my mind. I'm doing it to myself again. I've been traveling nonstop, running my business from the road while trying to write, and I'm worn out. I thought I had this self-care thing figured out, but now I'm not so sure. And this is important for all of us. It's an ongoing process, this personal growth, and it's never straightforward or linear. We spiral in and out of the shadowy places, doing our best to move toward the light, only to find ourselves back where we started. Have you ever felt that way, where you feel like you hear yourself say, I thought I did that already. I thought I worked on that already. I thought I healed that already, and here I am again. Like, what's the deal? So we spiral in and out of the shadowy places, doing our best to move toward the light, only to find ourselves back where we started. I need to re-engage that greedy little girl again and let her help me create more balance in my life. I need more time with Michael. I need rest, and I need the comfort and care of my domestic daily routine. I want to feel alive instead of frustrated and exhausted most of the time. Otherwise, what's the point? So my question to you is, or my invitation to you is to think about somebody in your life who's making you crazy or who has made you crazy. Somebody that pushes your buttons, somebody maybe who makes you really angry, or somebody you feel betrayed by or frustrated with, or you just don't like. And take some time, whether it's just, quietly in your own mind or with a journal, writing, it's always a great thing to do, and just ask yourself, what is it about this person that pushes your buttons? What is it about them that you don't like, you don't feel comfortable with, you feel frustrated by or angry about? And just make a list of everything that occurs to you. And then take a few deep breaths. And when you go back and look at that list from a very brave place, because it takes a lot of courage to ask this question, you want to go back and ask yourself, what might they be mirroring for me? As Debbie taught so beautifully, we are all everything. I'm a lovely, sweet woman, and I'm a royal bitch. I am brave and courageous and have done some pretty gutsy things in my life, and I'm scared shitless a lot of the time. I'm somebody who can be incredibly generous and really stingy. So we have all of these qualities of humanity in us. And of course, self-love and self-care is about embracing all of it. And in that example that I learned from Debbie, that example that I experienced with Debbie really showed me that what I thought was so horrible, being greedy, there was actually an element of greediness that I needed. I needed to embrace the part of me that was greedy and use that part to support me in making better choices. So maybe you need to say no more and feel entitled to that, feel deserving of that, without needing to, come up with excuses, without needing to take care of somebody else because you don't want to take care of this person, or without needing to be sick or burnt out because you've just, busted your ass for a long time and you suddenly feel entitled to take some time to yourself, instead of recognizing you're always entitled to that, always. Maybe somebody is really outspoken and you don't like the way they're always speaking up and they're always, telling you exactly what they think and how they feel. Well, maybe you need to do more of that. Maybe they're just mirroring for you a way in which you need to speak up more and to take more, just take charge of your life, take a stand for yourself. I know that my husband, Michael, has really taught me, especially in the beginning of our marriage. I've told this story before when I joke around about how, I was the kind of person where we'd finish dinner and I was up cleaning the table before anybody, almost like people had their last forkful and I was up cleaning up. Whereas Michael would just sit and talk and relax and, was very slow to make transitions. Well, I used to get so frustrated with him about that. Like, why aren't you just like snapping up and doing things until, I smartened up and realized, wait a minute. He's mirroring the part of me that needs to relax more and take a deep breath and enjoy the company of people without feeling like I've got to always get up and clean something or get organized or be anal about stuff. So I guess in the spirit of Debbie, I want to invite you to just really think about how somebody in your life who's making you crazy could actually be a gift in disguise. It's a pretty mature thing to do. It's a wise thing to do. It's a wise exercise. And you might uncover a gift that could really serve you at this time in your life as well. I hope it does. All right. Anyway, and Waking Up in Winter will be released, but not until December 19th. So I'll put a link to it in the post here when we're done, as I always do. And I'll also put a link to Debbie Ford's website, and so you can check out some of her books as well. She's written a lot of beautiful, beautiful books, and I encourage you to check them out. Okay, so I am going to scroll back here. This is your chance to ask some questions. Let me take a sip of tea, iced tea. And let me go back. I'm going to go back and see if I can look at some of the questions. Yeah, Kelly, I love Debbie Ford too. I love her so much. She's on my spiritual board of directors. My father's the president now. And you can just imagine, Mom, right? How happy he is to be the president of my spiritual board of directors. I talk to him a lot and I ask him for advice. I have on my spiritual board for many, many years. Louise is now also on my spiritual board of directors, and I like to think about how she and my dad are getting along, and what they talk about and what they talk about when they sort of look at me and what I'm doing. Anyway, let's see. Questions. Hey, Thomas, glad you're here, and Linda. All right, I am getting to your questions, I hope. Hi, Monica. Okay. So Magda says, I'm wondering how you can balance life. How can you balance life? I'm a mom with 3 girls. I'm a nurse. I work 67 hours a fortnight, so it's every 2 weeks. I have a small business in healing. I'm straightening my finances out. Any advice on simplifying my life? I feel stressed. I'm tired. I'm not able to give much more. I feel I want to move. Well, Magda, so first of all, I'm not surprised you're tired. Just raising 3 girls alone. I'm raising 1 child, from what I can tell from my friends who have children. I don't have children. Is a full-time job, a double full-time job, but trying to raise 3 children? I mean, my mother raised 7, and honestly, I don't know how she's as sane and as together as she is. Raising 3 children is a lot, and then, you're essentially working 35 hours a week, really, as a nurse. And so the raising of children is energy giving out all the time, right? Because children, normal, the whole universe revolves around them. That's how it's supposed to be when we're young. But for one human being to give, to constantly be putting out energy to 3 children is one thing. Then to work as a nurse where you're also putting out energy and taking care of people is triply exhausting. So I understand. And then you've got a small business in healing when really you ought to be taking any extra time you have and getting healed, getting massages or getting therapy or, some place where you can get support. So I'm glad that you're straightening your finances out. That's great. That's probably why you're working a lot. I don't know how old your children are, but if they're old enough to help support the family, I think that's actually not such a bad thing because it teaches kids to be responsible and to take care of themselves. It kind of grows them up as long as it's not too young. And I think nowadays that's actually a great thing for kids. And the key is right in your question. Any advice on simplifying my life? Yeah, that's the question. What can I do to simplify my life? Now, I want everybody to hear this. When we're stressed and overwhelmed, we typically go to the place of, I want to just change everything. I want to move. I want to say the hell with it. I'm going to downsize. I'm going to pack a bag. I want, my fantasy is I want a cabin in the woods. Michael knows whenever I say to him, honey, I'm really fantasizing about a cabin in the woods. He knows I'm doing too much. I've taken on too much, and it's time for me to just pull back and create some balance. That's what happens when we do too much. So simplifying is a really good idea, Magda. And so, yeah. So when you say, I feel I want to move, I don't know if your question got cut off, but first of all, in the state that you're in, you want to get support from people who are clear-minded and unstressed so that they can help you to make sane decisions that aren't in reaction to your current situation, but instead are proactive in a healthy and balanced way. It might be good for you to consider talking to a financial consultant. As a matter of fact, I often recommend, there's a gal, Melissa Sweet is her name. I recommend Melissa. She's a fee-based financial planner. That means that she, you just pay a fee. She has no vested interest. She doesn't invest money, but she helps people to sort of create a financial plan so that they can feel free and have more balance in their lives. I've recommended hundreds of people to her and they love her, and she can work by Skype. So I'm going to, I'll put her info in the post when we're done. I would get some guidance around finances. And yeah, sure, you can be absolutely open to the idea of maybe moving, downsizing to make things simpler and easier. There's a lot of people doing that nowadays, and but you want to do it in the right way. So getting some help, simplifying. It's great that you're getting your finances in order, but you also need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And I wonder also if there's a father involved. I don't see anything about that. Whether you're with a partner or not, or whether you're with a partner or not, they ought to be contributing as well. So I hope that's helpful. Check out Melissa's, please check out Melissa's, what do you call it, info on the post when we're done here. And I wish you all the best, sweetheart. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put you in my prayer book too. Why not, right? Let's put you in here and see if we can get you a little miracle too. How about that? All right. God works in mysterious ways, people. Let's see. Hi, Barbara. Barbara says, I met you and your mother-in-law in Neiman's in Boston a few years ago. Such a pleasure. I know exactly who you are, Barbara. Thank you for being here. I'm glad you're here. Let's see. Other questions? Deborah wants to know, how can you tell if it's time to leave a marriage? Well, you never want to tell that alone by yourself. I actually think it's really important to get guidance from a good therapist. I recommended the retreats that I do here on the East Coast. Oftentimes, the gals who have joined me for the weekend end up creating a private Facebook group and supporting each other. And I recommended a gentleman by the name of Steve Stosny, who does really great weekend workshops. As a matter of fact, a lot of times he's considered the sort of last resort for couples that are considering breaking up. And I recommended somebody to him, to his workshop, and she just came back after this past weekend, and reported in that it was a really powerful experience. So, Deborah, I will put Steve Stosny's information. The point is this: wherever you go, there you are. And anytime we're talking about leaving a marriage, hold on one second. Let me just make a note so I do that. Leave marriage. Anytime we're talking about leaving a relationship, marriage or not, it's important to know that unless we do the healing work that relationship is inviting us to do, because I personally believe that everybody we come in contact with is a soul who's here to support our growth in some way. I've believed this for decades. And there's no coincidence that, especially when you marry somebody, there's no coincidence that the two of you are together and there's something to be learned. And sometimes there's something to be learned about ending a relationship and something to be learned about staying in a relationship and healing, both individually and together. But we can't figure that out on our own. And so, Deborah, I would recommend that you find yourself a good therapist, somebody who specifically has worked with women and in relationships. Maybe they've even done couples counseling. And I would encourage you to get into therapy and look at your role in the relationship, what's happened, and even if your partner if your partner will go to therapy, that would be awesome. If he or she wouldn't, then you need to go anyway. And what you want to do is you really want to explore, what am I meant to learn in this relationship? And who am I at this time in my life? And what isn't working and why? And what might be what's being called to be healed within me in this relationship? Because, Deborah, if you don't do this work now, I promise you, you will just end up with the same person in a different suit or a different dress in the next relationship. It's true. I mean, when I was a young woman, the guys that I dated, when I look back, I see the same pattern over and over and over again. And until I got into therapy and started doing the work, I didn't meet somebody who was, until I felt worthy and deserving of a healthy, strong, vital, functional relationship, I wasn't going to meet somebody who was interested in that as well. So, and that means hooking up with a partner. Like I would never get into a relationship with anybody today who hadn't either already been in therapy or was completely open to it, because there's work to be done in any relationship. And as long as both partners are willing to come to the table, I think almost anything can be worked out. I mean, I have high hopes for couples who are willing, for people who are willing to do the work. Okay. I hope that's helpful, sweetheart. Let's see. Monica says, from your last live session, I've now have May Sarton on my to-read stack. Great. May Sarton inspired my journal. She wrote Journal of a Solitude, and it was a beautiful journal. So, all right, let's see. What other questions do we have here? Thank you, Helen, and hi, Linda. Oh, thanks, Kath. I'm so glad about that. Thank you for saying I'm brilliant, but there are some days I'm pretty not brilliant. Okay, here we go. So Magdalene says, congratulations on your new book. Thank you. Cheryl, can you speak to releasing friendships with individuals who do not participate in personal improvement and growth? You mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but I didn't capture all of what you said. I've been at dissonance with a long-term friend who just stays in the stagnation and dysfunction. Yeah, so first of all, Magdalene, I want to say that I addressed that a bit in this next book too, because it happened to me during the keeping of this journal. And I would say to you the same thing I was just saying to Deborah, was it, I think, about her relationship. Once again, even with friendships, I think it's important to ask, if this soul and I had made a contract before we came into this lifetime to help each other grow or evolve in some way, what might that contract have been? I think that's an important question to ask. And it's a kind of question that can help you connect with what this person might need to teach you. So that's the first thing I want to say. The next thing is, you know, we all grow and evolve at different stages, at different times and in different ways. And I respect that. You know, I don't have judgments for people who aren't into personal growth or aren't growing in the way that I'm growing. I mean, it's taken me a while to get to that place where I really respect the fact that we all grow in different ways at different times, that each of us has our own spiritual path to walk. And I don't know what your path is, Magdalene. You don't know mine. A lot of times I don't know mine. So we have to really respect that. And it's not uncommon as you take on your own healing journey, as you grow and evolve. It's not uncommon for us to outgrow friendships or to grow in different directions. Let's say it that way so that it doesn't sound like, you know, I'm a higher level than you are, let's say. We just all have different paths. And so it might be that this friendship has run its course. And so as you look at why might I have drawn this person into my life? What do they have to teach me? If you discover that it's really time to move on, if you know in your heart it's time to move on, and I want you to imagine what it would be like to not have this person in your life, then I think it's really important to be honest and upfront about it. I think it's important to honor what you did have in the relationship, you know, and when you have a conversation with this person, you know, you can just simply say, I love you, and I'm so appreciative of the years we've had together, the experiences, the learning, the ups and the downs. And because I want to honor this friendship, I need to be really honest with you. I feel like my life is moving in a different direction or has moved in a different direction. And rather than just be unavailable or not as, not taking your phone calls or making plans and then canceling, I just have to be honest and say, it's time for me to move on. And I will always be grateful for your friendship, and I'll be grateful for all that we've shared together. And there may be a time where we come back into each other's lives, and I'm certainly open to that. But for right now, the truth is, it's time for me to move on. My path is going in a different direction. And so you want to watch the time. This is right around 7:30, 7:35 Eastern. So, or let's say this, it's like 35 minutes into this Facebook Live. so that you can go back, Magdalene, and listen to what I just said. When you deliver that message, let me say it again for those of you who will need this for any relationship. I love you and I appreciate the time we've spent together, all the ups and downs and the experiences we've had. And it's become really clear to me that it's time for our friendship to go in different directions. I've gone in a different direction. And while our paths may cross again, and I'm certainly open to that, I just want to really honor our friendship by being honest with you and letting you know that it's time that I'm deciding to move in a different direction. Now, what's important to know about this is that regardless of what the person says after you've delivered that truth, it's really important that you just stick to what you just said. Don't debate it, don't defend it, and don't over-explain it. All of those things just open doors for further conversation that could very well lead to mixed messages, and that's not a loving thing to do for someone else. So regardless of what they say, you can just simply keep repeating, I appreciate all of the time we've spent together. I wish you the best. I'm just clear that I'm moving in a different direction. And then again, just keep repeating that. Yes, I hear what you're saying. I'm just clear. This is about me and how I feel, and I'm moving in a different direction. And you can just sort of stay with that. And I think that's probably the most loving and gracious way to move on from a friendship. And then at some point, the conversation needs to end, and you need to move on. So I hope that's helpful, Magdalene. And Deborah McCoy, yes, I'm going to put you in the prayer book as well. You got it, sweetheart. Okay, let's see. So I just want to point this out. Nancy K says, advice, if the person in my life who is driving me crazy because she cannot be truthful, advice about the person in my life who's driving me crazy because she cannot be truthful in many areas. Well, I'm going to go right back to what I said in the beginning, Nancy. We are all untruthful at times. And sometimes that saves our ass. And sometimes it saves a life. So I want to invite you to look at where you might be being untruthful in your own life. Be open to the reality that that might be the case. Because if it's driving you crazy, when we're in a balanced state, somebody's behavior like that over and over again, when we're in a mature, balanced state, and believe me, this is a high calling, people, we notice that behavior and decide that that behavior no longer works from us, and we can sort of move away from it. Anything that drives us crazy, chances are, is mirroring something within us that we are being invited to look at. So, Nancy, I'd go back and listen to the beginning of this and do the exercise that I talked about. You know, write down all of the qualities that are driving you crazy about her, including her dishonesty, and then begin to ask yourself brave, hard questions about where you're not being honest in your own life. Maybe you're not being honest with yourself. That's also something you might want to look at. And that'll make it a little bit harder. Okay. Helen wants to know, how can I get info on self-care? Well, Helen, here's the deal. If you send an email to chris@CherylRichardson.com, I will send you, I'm just going to choose you right now, because I always get lots of people saying, will you send me a free book too? And I can't do that for everybody. But Helen, I'm going to send you a copy of The Art of Extreme Self-Care. It's a perfect book for either getting started on the self-care path or getting back on it when you're off. Because I wrote it because I was off the self-care path and needed to get back on in a very significant way. So Helen, chris@CherylRichardson.com, send an email, tell her you're on my Facebook Live, give me your address, and I'll sign a copy, put in a little note, and I'll send you a book. How's that? That'll get you started. Oh, thanks, Mom. I can't even read your comments. I'll start crying. Thank you. Let's see. Sheila says, I have a friend who never responds positively or negatively to I or what anyone else says, but immediately starts to talk about her experience. She seems to have no empathy. How is that behavior mirroring my behavior? She drives me crazy. Well, Sheila, just go back and listen to this Facebook Live, sweetheart, because the first person you might want to have some empathy for is her, because chances are she has a very strong need to be heard because somebody didn't hear her growing up. A lot of us, all of us, including our parents, didn't get seen, didn't get heard, didn't get our needs met because our parents, their parents, decades, I mean, if you go back generations, parents had children to work in the field. There was no self-help or psychology. So a lot of times we wind up coming from environments where we had parents who were raising kids who never got seen or heard themselves. And so the first place of empathy is there. And then she also, Sheila, could be inviting you to learn how to gently interrupt and talk more about yourself. That could be something as well. So give it some thought. But if she's driving you crazy, there's a gift there just waiting for you, I promise. Okay. Thank you, Teresita. Very sweet of you. Really, really appreciate that. Roseanne says, how do I get my daughter to value her money and not overspend? That's what stresses me out. Well, I wonder how old your daughter is, Roseanne. If she's an adult and out of the house, you probably just need to let her fend for herself and get into messes and get out of them on her own. So that means not giving her money all the time. If you're doing that, not bailing her out, because kids don't learn how to be responsible adults when parents bail them out all the time. So I think that that's really important. And if she is somebody who lives with you, same thing. If you're bailing her out, if you're giving her money, if you're covering her overspending, then you're part of the problem, sweetheart. And the way that you're going to teach her, so what you probably need to work on is your own anxiety about her spending, your own anxiety about her overspending and her mismanagement of money. You're going to need to learn to manage that anxiety, to be with that anxiety as you leave her to deal with the consequences of her behavior. This is a very common situation. And I'll tell you, I hate to sound like an old stodgy gal, but there's a lot of kids nowadays who need to learn to be more responsible. There just are. And part of the problem is that they are over cared for. I mean, this is like a gross generalization. Everybody's situation is different. That said, I've talked to many parents who keep bailing their kids out and then they wonder why they're not responsible adults. Well, if somebody kept stepping in and bailing me out, I'd just keep counting on it. That's human nature. It'd be stupid not to, right? So if you want to come bail me out too, Roseanne, I'll take your generosity, sweetheart. I'm kind of kidding here, but you get the point, right? Okay, let's see. Let's take a couple more questions. A lot of people are saying they like the spiritual board of directors idea. You know, I started that 26 years ago when my friend Lucy died. She was a single, tough woman. She was in her 80s, and she gave me the great gift of being with her as she went through the dying process and actually being with her in the hospital the night she took her last breath. And so I decided, because I missed her, this is the woman that I lost, that Bill at the beginning of this Facebook Live, who is here, helped me to grieve. I think that's just a beautiful full circle moment here. I put her on my spiritual board of directors. She was the one that really inspired that. And I swear to you people, there were so many speeches I walked into early in my career, and before I did, I would say to Lucy, all right, Lucy, I need your help. I need to feel you with me. I need courage because I'm really nervous. I was new to giving speeches. I'm really nervous, and I need your help here. And I'm telling you, I would feel calmer because of it. And then as people I loved passed, I added them to my spiritual board of directors. And for a long time, Debbie was the president. And then when my dad died, he took over. And now Louise is there as well. So, and I talk to them, and I swear to you people, I treat my spiritual board of directors as if they were a human board of directors as well. And I include them in my conversations. And I was just talking to my dad earlier today. I ask him for support all the time because he was such a smart businessman. Smart mind, gifted mind, great memory for numbers. And boy, I feel his presence, and I get I can download his advice just like I can download Louise's advice and Debbie's advice, and hopefully share some of it with you here too. So, okay. Oh, Chrissy lost her aunt today. She's on my spiritual board along with my mother. 2 sisters together at last. Did you write about grief in your book? Yes, I did. I wrote about grief a lot in my book, Cressy. So I'm going to also put you in my prayer book. And I'm so sorry for the loss of your aunt today. I really am. And now they both get to be on your board. And I can only imagine what's going to happen in your life. You're going to kick some butt because of it. Just make sure you talk to them, right? You stay in touch. Connect with them as if they were right here. I know when we leave this earth, we're going to be with the spirit. We're going to see the spirits. We're going to experience the spirits of all of our loved ones. And then we're going to be going, why didn't I think, why didn't I believe? Why didn't I talk to them? I figure, listen, what have we got to lose in believing that they're here with us? What have we got to lose, right? I think it's an awesome, beautiful idea. So I'm very sorry for your loss, sweetheart. Thank you, John. John wants to know, did I ever consider opening my retreats to men? Yes. And I've talked about this before, John. I will do that at some point. I guess the reason I haven't in the past is because I've said a lot of times what happens is just a couple of men come, and then there's a lot of questions and focus on women's issues. And honestly, I feel anxious. That's what happens. That's the truth. I'll be at the retreat and I'll start to feel, this is like completely codependent, but I'll start to feel anxious because I feel like the poor men are, being bombarded by a lot of women's issues. And so I probably just need to get over that and do a retreat with men and women. I'm actually considering doing a retreat with Russ Hudson, who's the gentleman who wrote the Wisdom of the Enneagram, which the Enneagram is a spiritual, I call it a spiritual typing system that I think is incredibly powerful. I write about that in my next book too. And I'm thinking about doing a retreat with him. And that would absolutely be open to men because he's an unbelievable, such a gifted teacher. And I love him so much. And so for those of you who are familiar with the Enneagram, for those of you who aren't, you will be once you read my next book. But if you're familiar with it and it's something you'd like to do, just comment that you'd love to do that because that'll encourage me and I may actually book a retreat with him next year. Okay. Yes, Magda, you're very welcome. Let's see. Carol wants to know how to construct a treasure map, please. Well, Carol, I'm going to tell you, I read a book called Secret of the Ages by Robert Collier. I'm going to write it down. I don't even know if you can still get it. Secret of the Ages. This is a book written in the early 1900s. I read it when I was about in my late 20s. No, I think I was 30. I remember I was on the Stairmaster at the gym. I can remember reading that book on the Stairmaster. And I really loved that book. And in that book, he talked about creating treasure maps. And I started doing it probably around then. As a matter of fact, I have right here in my office a whole bunch of treasure maps that I just took digital photos of because eventually I have to get rid of them. But so here's what I would do. Simple creation of a treasure map process. Start to gather magazines, catalogs, anything, any kind of anything with images. Start to gather them in a box somewhere. And then set aside one day where you'll just go through the magazines or the catalogs and pull out any images, words, or phrases that really speak to you in some way. Just everything. Just rip them out, rip them out, rip them out. Then recycle all the rest of the magazine in the catalogs that you're not using. Then pick another day, another afternoon, uninterrupted afternoon, and spread all of those images, words, and phrases out on the floor around you. And notice the ones that really call to you. And I would say out of all that you've ripped out, if there's a lot of them, choose about 25 or 30% of the ones that really, really speak to you and put them aside and get rid of the rest. Recycle all the rest. Always recycle. And then you can get a big, big piece of poster board and start to place the images. I wish I could show you one, but it's not going to be easy to do. Start to place the images all over the board. And sometimes I'll put images with phrases over them. And just sit with it on the board, someplace where there's no breeze for a while. And then you might want to like move them around over a few days, and then eventually you just want to glue it to the board. Now, if you put any dollar amounts, like let's say you want to save a certain amount of money, you put that on the board, or you want to earn a certain money, you put that on the board. Always put a plus sign after any dollar amounts. So for example, if I say, I want to make $1 million, I would always put $1 million plus, or, you know, this year I want to earn $50,000, 50,000 plus. Or I want my hourly rate to be $200 an hour, 200 plus. If you're going to do things, I remember doing things like putting travel on an early treasure map when I didn't have any money to travel, so I put the word free in front of it. Free travel. And I'm telling you, I got a free trip. Within 2 months after doing that treasure map, a friend of mine won a trip and invited me to go with her. So think about the things that you want. Now, this might sound very materialistic, like, oh gosh, you know, it's not very spiritual. Well, let me tell you something. The reality is, you got to start somewhere with the recognition that your thinking influences your body and your life. And so one of the most powerful ways to get that your thoughts create your reality is by first putting some energy behind what it is you really want to draw into your life. And a treasure map is a great way of doing that. Over the years, my treasure maps became smaller and smaller in terms of the number of items on them. My spiritual life became a bigger and bigger part of the map. And to the point where I began to realize that things weren't really important. It was the recognition that my thoughts and my beliefs influenced my life. And the putting down of things on the board and then having them show up in my life just taught me, this is sort of like the law of attraction 101, right? Where you learn that, oh, wow, the things that I put intention behind really do have a significant, really can show up in my life. And that's a great beginning way of understanding that your thinking and your beliefs and your attitude and the energy that you put out into the world is pretty powerful. So I think it's a great idea. And I would encourage you to go ahead and do that. All right. So, yes, Claudia, my prayers to Mexico, Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, the Bahamas. I'm telling you, not a day goes by. I mean, my heart breaks. It's really hard sometimes. But I'm keeping you all in my prayers and in my heart. And I hope we all do. I've been sending prayers, sending money, supporting people, caring for animals and human beings. You know, that's the beauty of the more abundance you get into your life, the more you can support other people. And that's what we all need to be doing. And your prayers are just as important as your dollars. So, yes, I hold you in my heart, all of you. And I wish you just Godspeed in terms of the healing and the restoration. It's just heartbreaking. It really is. Anyway. All right, everybody, I'm going to finish here, and I'm going to thank you so much for being here with me. There's still some spots left in the Healthcare by the Sea retreat. I'll post it here I'll edit the post when we're done. I'll put the resources in like I always do, and I thank you so much for giving me the gift of your time and your attention. I know you get pulled in a lot of directions. We all do. So I'm glad that you're here, and I'll look forward to being with you again next week. Okay? All right, everybody. God bless.